Welcome back, everybody. Before we hop right into today's episode, I just wanted to let you guys know that we have a couple of big announcements actually coming probably next week. So we've been working hard behind the scenes on a couple of different things because we always want to, serve you guys better, help you guys out more. So drum roll. Wait, no, the drum roll will be next week.
But it'll be very exciting. We're really excited to share this with everybody. It's going to be a price point everybody can afford. We'll just say that. Yeah,
so stay tuned. So next week, we will have 2 announcements.
Yep.
So till then, today we are going to talk about, three times that more isn't always better. Mm-hmm. And this podcast episode was actually inspired by a conversation that Scott had with one of our members. We can chat about that in a little bit. But we'll start this off by talking about how more sales isn't always better.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be like a default, like everybody's like, I just got to sell more.
Yeah. And
sometimes you do.
Well, yeah, it is. Now, this is something we were told by a professional before that would just keep selling more.
And I think that's appropriate when you're just starting out and you have to just kind of like sell your tail off because you're literally just starting out and you don't have really any other options.
But we did increase our sales, but our profits weren't there. We weren't making as much money. And come to find out, it was a couple different things we had going on. One, we weren't very productive and very efficient on the job site. And then 2, we weren't doing our estimates properly. So that kind of ties into before you just so if you've been at this landscaping game for a little bit and you're not in that first year or 2 of you just have to sell like crazy just to get established. Well, that's my little caveat. Yeah. So if you're beyond that, if you've been in it just a little bit long enough to, kind of have your feet just a little, then if you're not making money before you just jump directly to sell, I need to sell more. There are a couple things that you can do. And that's what Scott alluded to. Yeah. And the first one was to, you just have to do job costing. And job costing includes checking your productivity. Are your employees, and yourself included if you're still out in the field, are you hitting your benchmarks for how much time you have budgeted to be out on each individual job? Yeah, and job costing was critical, like Katie said. That's how we were able to find some of this important information. Because we found out our teams were not very productive on the job site. We thought we were doing all right. We knew we had some issues.
We had a lot of downtime.
We ended up having a lot of downtime, and found out that we weren't providing our team all the information we needed. And there's a whole nother backstory to it. But if we would have kept doing more sales, we would still have been unproductive.
Our productivity was so low, it really wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
Because no matter how much you sell, if you aren't getting it done, time is money in this industry. It really is. If you're not getting it done in the proper time frame, it doesn't really matter how much you're working.
Because your crews are still going to be doing the same thing, and it actually probably create more of a hassle. So if we would have kept producing more sales because we weren't as productive. So
sure. And we didn't have the systems in place to kind of take on that load.
Correct.
And along with the job costing is the estimating. That's just making sure that you're putting out enough and if you're charging enough, putting enough hours into your estimates, that kind of whole big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. The job costing is twofold. It shows if your teams are coming into or doing their job in the hours you predicted. And it also shows if you're estimating properly. Because if your crews are being productive, doing the job as how they're supposed to, then maybe you're underbidding your jobs. You're not estimating the amount of time or the amount of dollar amount that you need to cover everything. So it is twofold when you start doing job costing.
Yeah, it gives you a little opportunity to not only check on your teams, but to kind of check yourself to make sure that you are, like you said, giving them enough hours to get everything done. So for sure, look into job costing and checking your productivity hours and how much you're charging and all that before you do just start to just adding more sales.
Yeah, and the other thing too, if you start adding more sales, do you have the team to actually support that? The team actually to go out and physically do the labor. Right now, it's so hard to find people. Can you actually have the team to do it? Do you have the back end support for the person that's got to do the bookkeeping and invoicing and all that stuff? There's a whole nother gamut of things. Do you need an operations manager at a certain point? There's a lot of things that come into play when you start adding more sales. Everybody keeps going, I need to do more.
Just check yourself before you wreck yourself, because you could sell yourself into a problem.
Absolutely.
And you don't want to not be able to provide the services that you have contracted out, because you don't want to have to, think out on your contracts because you can't get out there. You don't have the people. You don't have the time. That's going to do nothing but give you a bad name.
Yeah. So if you're looking to grow and think sales are the answer,
they might be.
No, we're not.
But check yourself first.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a line you have to look at before, and everything's a big circle. Everything we do in any business, and it's job costing, estimating, all this plays into the thing, and before you can start doing more sales, I guess. So
all right. The next thing, the next time where more isn't always better, is when it comes to employees. Specifically, what kicked this off was a conversation you had with one of our members about the number of employees he had out on the job site.
Yeah.
It obviously it depends what you're doing, and there's like a lot of different factors at play, but
yeah, absolutely. So basically we're talking about, with this member about the number of people he has going out on job site. And in this particular case, he was doing irrigation, and he had 2 to 3 people going out to do just diagnostic work and just small repairs. And to me, there becomes a point where you're actually wasting money. And, especially if you're charging a set amount, if you're charging whatever, $100 a change a head because you're going out there, but now you have 3 guys going out there, you're losing money on the job. So I get to there's a point you want to keep your team busy, but you have to look at the job that's at hand and decide whether you need 1 person, 2 people, 3 people to do the job.
Yeah, because 3 people out on a job, that's like an industry standard. So, people often hear, 3 people per crew, 3 people per crew. But that might not be appropriate when it is, like you said, just running diagnostics on an irrigation repair. Yeah. That might be more for if you're like a landscaping crew is where that might be more appropriate, because even if you're using the thought of, well, if I have more people out there, they'll get done quicker. That's not always necessarily true, because you might be stepping on each other. Somebody won't know what to do. Somebody's leaning on a shovel. It's not always more productive to have more cooks in the kitchen.
Oh yeah. Early on, my dad would be like, just take the other 2 guys, 3 guys, whatever it is, and you have 5, 6, 7 guys on a job that doesn't really need it. It's just a small
especially if
residential
that's not
house.
their normal crew. They won't know what to do.
Yeah. And, we end up finding out that for us, our 3-man crew or 4-man crew was the best, depending on the job site. But it's one of those things you just have to start looking at the numbers. Again, job costing, because it's going to show you where you're productive at. And you can actually sit down and actually run numbers too to see how productive or how much money you're going to make with the number of crews, different number of crews or number of guys
so
on the crews.
More people out on the job isn't always better. Like I said, make sure it's appropriate to what individual tasks they're doing. Make sure you double check your numbers on it, because like I said, you can have just people standing around, especially if it's not a job that they always kind of go out on. They're not going to just automatically know what to do. And then you're just kind of giving them an easy day, I guess.
Well, it is. And then you're just wasting money, and you're not making the profit you need to. So just start running the numbers and start looking at different choices that you have.
Yep. And the third place where more isn't always better is with equipment. I know everybody likes to buy. Well, equipment is helpful, and we are 100% not saying that equipment isn't helpful. But before you go ahead and purchase a piece of equipment, you should do a little bit of due diligence ahead of time. Like, do you really need it? Maybe start keeping track of how often, how many times a week you would actually use it, how many hours a week you would actually use it.
Yeah, and there's a line where you can actually would you be better off just going out renting the piece of equipment for a few times or even a month or something versus buying it overall? Just to give you an example, my dad was obsessed with the Ventrac, and he ended up buying this thing, and I don't remember exactly what it was, like $30,000 or $40,000 for this Ventrac. And honestly, we used it 4 times a year, I think it was, and that was it. And mainly
what was his plan? He was going to use it for snow.
Yeah, snow, and then it was mowing.
Busy season, or was it mowing?
He wanted to use it for mowing on this one hill, but the crews never wanted to take it out because they already had the mowers with them, so they didn't want to take it out. So
why would we take this thing out for one place that we mow? Yeah.
So it would only mainly get used for snow, and then a couple times we had a brush too for it, so he would brush some.
Like sidewalk sweeping or road sweeping
along roads and stuff.
Yeah.
But honestly, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth the $40,000 we had to pay for this piece of equipment. So
no.
sometimes we get obsessed and we want these things because they're cool and you know, yeah, they help out when you're actually on the job, but when it's sitting around 90% of the time, it's not making you money. You're losing money. You know, it's one of those things when you look out in the yard and you start looking around and seeing how many trucks are sitting out there and not getting used, or how many pieces of equipment are not getting used. And that happens day after day after day. It's just costing you money. So
yeah,
it's one of those things you need to start looking at and tracking what's actually being used, like Katie said, and running the numbers, whether you'd be better off just running it or
if you've got a good accountant, or financial advisor, they should be able to help you with that. Like, can I fit this into my budget? It's always a good idea to maybe like estimate what the payment's going to be and try for a couple months, like just putting that away in the bank. Like, okay, do I have enough money to pay for this? Just do a little test run, like just squirrel that away. Another
example of the equipment, we had a mini excavator and we used it for a lot of different things. A lot of times it was for the water feature side, but when we go out to do like a small little water feature, a little pond, whatever, 8x11 or 6x8 even, it wasn't worth us taking this large piece of equipment out there because it would just cause us more work. We'd have to,
you could could easily dig too deep, and then you'd have to fill it back in.
It wasn't worth it. Some of the guys like, it's hard, hard to dig without it. Well, yes, but it's not worth it. There's certain times you have to kind of balance it out, and it's one of those things you show the numbers. That it's why you have to know your numbers for everything. It's one of the things we stress in our academy all the time is knowing your numbers, and this is part of it.
Yeah, taking that piece of equipment out wasn't always worth it. So, and we kind of touched on this, just if you're going to buy something, make sure maybe it can be used on, like you said, more than one job, multiple seasons of use, multiple jobs, stuff like that. It's really hard to buy things for just like one.
Yeah, like in our area, we use, we have a shorter season for landscaping. Well, not shorter, but it's, 8 to 9 months typically. And then we have our snow season. So we try to purchase equipment that we can use year round. So like the mini excavator, that one we obviously can't really use year round. Maybe
no, not everything. And like snow plows and stuff. Obviously those are very specific, but in general, like we have skid steers, but then we have pushers for the skid steers. So those,
our payloaders are used in the summertime for dirt. In the wintertime, they got pushers as well. Our trucks, we try to outfit them so they can push snow or haul around
a sidewalk crew
or whatever it is. We try to make sure we purchase equipment that can be used year round. So
so do the best you can. But these are just a couple quick 3 things to think about. Like I said, this was inspired because when he was talking to our member who had too many people out on the crew, and I'm like, oh, you know what, more's not always better. And I'm like, oh, that could be a good podcast.
Yeah, and like I said, we had a good example. Like I said, we had a professional tell us, you just need to do more sales.
Yeah, at some point.
If we were not efficient, we're not making money. So just learn your numbers, job cost.
Yep, do all those. Yep. All right. Well, that was just a quick and easy one for you today. So, all right, we'll move on to our questions for Scott. Okay, we have got, what's the worst job you've ever had? Don't say landscaping. That would be real embarrassing.
I did work for a fire restoration company and mold remediation company.
Like they went and cleaned up after fires, or if people had mold or a flood.
Floods and sewer backups. So
gross.
Sewer backups are probably the worst, I'd say, just because you're messing with the stuff that
sounds disgusting. Like you're talking sewer backups, like not like road sewers. Like you're talking the poop. There was poop.
Oh yeah. I remember I had to take the vacuum, suck up the turds and stuff.
Thank you for that sound effect. That was disgusting. Yeah.
Hope you guys aren't eating lunch.
All right. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Best piece of advice. Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know. There's quite a few different things.
Yeah, pick one.
Well, probably one of the biggest things is we talked about here today was job costing, learning to job cost. I mean, we did some before, but we didn't really know how to analyze it and actually look at the numbers. So
we tried
learning the numbers and learning how to actually understand the numbers for it was probably the biggest thing I learned.
All right. What are you most excited about right now?
Right now, I'm excited for GIE. I'm excited.
I was wondering if that's what you were going to say. You were really digging into looking at swag and stuff. So if anybody's going to GIE, we will definitely be there. And Scott has picked out all of our swag and freebies. And so come and get them because if we're going to purchase them, please come and take them. I don't want to drag it all home.
Yeah, Katie's worried that we're going to have too many. But
Well, it's a tough one because some people love, you said, he knows people that love to come and get the free pens and all that stuff. I'm like the opposite. I never want anything. So I don't.
Actually, let us know. Do you guys go to these shows and
that is a good
seek
idea.
out to get the information? I would love to hear it because I hear people from both sides. Like me, I'd only gather stuff that I want or know that I'm going to use.
Yeah.
I know some people that go there and just grab every single thing and kind of have a contest who can fill their bag
specifically to grab all the freebies.
Yeah,
so I want none of them because you just throw them away. But so that's why we have tried to pick out useful swag.
Yes.
So things you can actually use. So
put in the comment section. Let us know if you guys go there to grab stuff or if not. Just let us know.
Sure.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us today and have a great day.